I decided to write this book, The Legend of Custer County. I'm originally from Texas, and I moved to Oklahoma about 20 years ago, and I just absolutely fell in love with the state, the culture of the state, the people. So I went out to Western Oklahoma, met my father-in-law, and he is from Western Oklahoma, and he had a grandfather named Grover Cleaver Miller, and they're always telling stories about him. And I thought, how can I take my love of Oklahoma, his story, and combine it into a story that would be an entertaining, worthwhile story for all ages. And I was sitting on the couch one day and saw a commercial for the Oklahoma property management, and they were talking about a buried treasure in Butler, Oklahoma, and that piqued my interest. So I started doing research, and from there is history. That's how the book came about. So a whole lot of history out there in West Texas and Western Oklahoma. The history starts with the Native Americans, and one of the characters in my book is actually a Native American that tries to hold on to his culture. And it starts with that, and then you have the Great Depression that swept through that area, and in fact the book is set during the Great Depression. Part of the book is, and it's survival. These individuals were hard, strong, tough individuals. A lot of people during the Depression took off, during the Dust Bowl, took off to California and other places. But these individuals, there were individuals that staked their ground and they held out. And to this day, now their families are here. And that's why a lot of them. In the book, Buck, or his real name was Buchanan, was actually inspired by my own great-great-grandfather. And it was a combination of my great-great-grandfather and my father-in-law's father, Grover Miller Cleveland. I put them together, and his name in the book is Buck. And Buck, throughout the whole story, he is one of those that ties things together. He is there for his friends. He doesn't give up on his friends. And he goes through a hard time. I mean, it's the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl. And Buck is a strong character throughout the book. He's a good friend, loyal friend throughout the book. So, I would say that the most accurate, or as close as I could get it, was a story about a flood. You got to understand, this was the Great Dust Bowl, and there was no water anywhere. But they had a monsoon came along, and there was floods everywhere. And Hammond, Oklahoma, which is north of Butler there, flooded. And unfortunately, 8 people, an entire family lost their life down that river. And in the book, Buck is one of those that risked his life going up there to rescue people from the floods. And he talks about in the book how the book talks about how they walked down the banks and found all the bodies, and a lot of them were children. And it's just a sad story, but it's that time period, and right in that time frame. So. One of the things that I really like about the book is that, of course, I'm from Western Texas, and I love Western Oklahoma. And one of the things is that sometimes when we live in the city for so long, our kids grow up in the city, they get the impression that everybody out in the country is a bunch of hillbillies with no teeth and backwoods. And I wanted to show that that's not the actual truth. And these 2 boys, they have it in their mindset that that's what they're going to find when they get out to Western Oklahoma, is some hillbilly camp out there. But what they find out is that that the individuals that run the farm and everything for generations are more modernized than these 2 guys are, and they're more knowledgeable, more educated, and they're just normal, loving family that they become a part of in that family. If you really like this book, this book, I've got 3 or 4 other books that I suggest that you read too. One of them is a book called Henry, about a little boy, a youth pastor, learns what it means to be a pastor and a human being at the same time. have another book. It's called Circle in the Woods. It's about my mother and her last days before she passed away. So these are some other books that you can look for, and I